All right, welcome everybody to tonight's fireside chat. My name is Ramit Sethi, CEO of I Will Teach You to Be Rich, and tonight we are talking about money mindsets. What are your money mindsets if you had to describe them? Well, a good way to answer that question is to think about what were the messages that your family talked about when you were sitting around the dinner table and it came to money. Notice I said money because I was not talking about you delinquent students who never did your homework. What the hell's wrong with you? That's a larger problem than we have time to discuss tonight, okay? We're not here to talk about that. I'm talking about money, people. What did your mom or dad say to you when you were sitting around the dinner table at the age of 5 or 7? Was it phrases like, "We don't talk about money in this household, little Timmy"? Was it easy come, easy go? Or we're not like those people. They got a little too big for their britches. These are all phrases that at some point in time, some of us have heard. And so what I would like to do before we get to the mindsets is I would like everybody to pull out their phone right now and text your mom, dad, whoever it is you grew up with, and ask them this. When we were growing up, how would you describe your feelings towards money in 3 or 4 words? Yes, pull out your phone right now. Yes, this is live. And yes, this is a real fire. I got this question yesterday. Oh my God, I've been watching all your fireside chats. I just realized this fire is real. Dude, what do you think I've been doing for 5 minutes every day before this thing? I sit there, I get my fingers all dirty. This is a real fire, people. All right, pull out your phone, text your family, parents, siblings, whoever, because we're going to use your answers later on in today's fireside chat. So the question you're going to ask them is, when we were growing up, how would you describe your feelings towards money? Cass, I'm going to ask you about this as well. All right?
Oh, okay.
So today's money mindsets that I'm going to cover, I'm just going to cover 3. They're excerpted from one of our programs on money mindsets, which is called Wealth Triggers. And I think that money mindsets are something that are not talked about enough, because you could go from wherever you are today to tripling your income. Tripling. And would your money mindsets magically change? No. In fact, we have a lot of people, some of whom are notable, well, they're in a lot of financial communities, and they have increased their earnings, but they still obsess over pennies. And you look at them and you say, oh, that must be sad, or wow, like they're so cheap. These are words that we use. But the fact is that once you figure out how to make more money, and there is a process for making more money, I've been teaching it for 15 years, this doesn't just come along magically. You have to engineer this just as much as you engineer your income. That is why everyone has a cheap-ass uncle who has a lot of money, but still checks everybody's expenses when it comes to settling up the tab. Everybody. Okay? That person learned how to make money, but they did not learn the accompanying skill of changing their money mindset. You also have a lot of $30,000 millionaires. This is a great term I learned from a Dallas article about 7 years ago. They make $30,000 bucks, but they spend like they're millionaires. So their money mindset is also warped, but in the opposite direction. They're spending, they're buying all kinds of fancy stuff, but their finances cannot sustain it. There's also a phrase called house poor. So they buy a big house, but inside they sleep on a mattress and eat ramen. We definitely don't want that. Perhaps we'll talk about real estate in a future fireside chat.
Wow.
Realtors, please don't watch. You already hate me. You should hate me. The feeling is mutual. For most, not all. I know 3 trustworthy realtors in my life. The rest I trust as far as I can throw them. We'll discuss that another time, my friends. Especially to my friends at the NAR. You suck. Okay, what were we talking about? Money mindsets. Wow. Anytime the NAR comes up, I get a little off track. So, Cass, what are some people saying in terms of what they grew up with? Mm-hmm. Some of the phrases.
Hoard money.
Oh, wow.
Especially for the bad times. Mm-hmm. A man never reveals his income.
Okay.
The stock market is like gambling.
Yes.
You have to work very hard to get rich.
Oh, interesting. Oh, just take that one for a second. So interesting, because if you dig into the layers of what that means, it means that if you are making money and it seems easy, you must be doing something wrong. I see this in my students all the time. They use Earnable or a program like it, and suddenly Earnable just came out like 2 days ago, so it's not Earnable, but ZTL, Earn1K are other business programs, and they learn the skill of making money, and suddenly they made $30,000 more, or in many cases $300,000 more, but they feel racked with guilt. Why? Because it's supposed to be hard. If I'm not toiling and sweating, then I'm not really working hard enough, am I? What else did they say?
People who make a lot of money lose it all.
Oh, probably came from the child of a parent who was feast or famine, made a lot, spent it all, did it again and again, and so now they're risk averse. I've seen it a million times.
There's a few people that said they never talked about it with their parents.
Yep.
Another person said, we're not cheap, just smart.
Oh, listen to that one. We're not cheap, just smart. I love that. So here's a person whose family or perhaps related others, they might obsess over the price of gas. We don't want to pay $2.32 for gas. We're going to drive 10 miles because it's $2.30. We're not cheap, just smart. That self-righteousness is what enables people to continue focusing on $3 questions when they really should be asking $30,000 questions. All right. Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. So let's start off by talking about my first money mindset that I'd like to share tonight. And this happened when I started writing I Will Teach You to Be Rich in 2004. In 2004, I started writing, and I started writing about everything: budgeting, banking, saving, investing, all kinds of stuff. To tell you the truth, I took a lot of pride in what I wrote, but looking back, some of those posts were not as good as now. And that kind of makes sense, right? I've been doing this for like 15, 20 years, so my stuff better be better than it was when I was starting. But I remember the first post I ever wrote was banking, budgeting, saving, and investing. I hate budgeting, and I don't really think you should be talking about banking in your first post. Like, really, who cares? There's other things that people care about. And so eventually I started writing more, and I got a little bit more savvy and sophisticated. And at a certain point, I realized I did not want to talk about cutting back. Okay? I didn't want to talk about saving money and coupon cutting, and you can disable your oven light and save 7 cents every 2 years. No, I'd rather be dead. I don't want to do that. That's just not the kind of life I want to lead. It's not the kind of people I wanted reading my site. And this kind of meant that I had attracted a lot of people, some of whom were interested in like automation, money psychology, but just in general, when it comes to money in America, the vast majority of people know and like frugality. That is what they know, that's what they grew up with, and that is what they expect. So when I started talking, after years of writing about money stuff, I started writing about earning more. A lot of people did not like it. And they started saying, this seems like a scam, because earning more to a lot of people seems like a scam. Why? Because they've been raised with the money mindset of, this is all we have, we should be happy, and we better protect it. Don't let anybody tax us. That's evil. Socialism. Fucking lunatics. But they never think about expanding the size of the pie, okay? So when I started talking about this, it was very uncomfortable. It's like a whole different worldview. And people started unsubscribing. They started leaving first in trickles, then in hordes. At that time, I had about 50,000 email subscribers. Over the course of the next few years, I would lose approximately 35 to 40,000 of those subscribers. Let me say that again, in case you didn't catch it. I had 50,000 subscribers. Over the course of the next few years, I would lose approximately 35,000 of those subscribers. Do you understand what that feels like? And do you understand that at the time, I used an email service provider that allowed people to write why they were unsubscribing. So every day I'm getting 50 to 100 things that say, used to enjoy your stuff, but now it seems like you're a scam. And that went on for years. How do you think you would feel if you had actually built something up where people liked you and you were enjoying it, but then you decided to take a different turn? And a lot of them said, you suck, I'm out of here. Not good. It really did not feel good. But at that moment, I realized a principle. And that principle is, my future is bigger than my past. And I truly believe this. I believed that at the time I had been writing about, 4 or 5 years, something like that. And I knew that I had decades to work on this little site I called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And decades to explore all kinds of stuff I could never even imagine at the time. But I knew that the 35,000 people who were unsubscribing, in the grand scheme, were just a drop in the bucket. Now, I don't fault them. I actually respect when people say, you know what, this is not for me. I appreciate what you've done, but I think I'm going to go somewhere else. I respect that. I do the same with my clients as well. I think that having that principle is one of the only things that allowed me to keep going. Because if I had simply looked at 50,000 going down every single day, I would have given up. But I knew that my future was bigger than my past. And so I see this principle now applied everywhere. I see people who come and sometimes they see some of my fitness posts and they're like, I'm 47 or I'm 57. Is it too late for me, fitness-wise? They ask the same thing about money 10 times more. I'm 50. I didn't start investing at 22 like that one example in your book. Is it too late for me? My answer is it's never too late. It's never too late to start. But we need to be candid about how much we can achieve. I had something like a 65-year-old woman write me and said, I need to make $100,000 in the next 1 year, and I'm on a fixed income, so I need to make it through investments. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. And sometimes we need to hear the candid truth. I had to be very gentle about that message. So you won't make $100,000 off investments in 1 year. But the second best thing you can do is to start now. Because, what else can you do? You're just going to give up? No. Let's start today. It's never too late. We can adjust what our expectations are, but let's start. So, principle number 1, your future is bigger than your past. Okay. Principle number 2, for this one, I would like to show you some real life props. Cass, do you recognize this?
Yes.
What do you, let's just get a close up here of the side of this thing. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
What do you recognize about this laptop? What is this?
It's the laptop you use every single day.
Okay, and have you ever had any comments about this laptop?
Why, yes, I have.
What might those comments have been?
You should get a new laptop.
Why'd you tell me that?
Because you've had it for so long. It also has, I think, about 3 pounds of chicken stuck in the keyboard.
I do eat my lunch over my keyboard, so if things get really bad, I'm just planning to dump it upside down and then just collect the chicken on a spoon and just go to town. People find that really disgusting when I joke about that, but we don't know. So this is a MacBook Air from 8 years ago, and you've walked by me as my feet were on the table. I'm like doing my work stuff. And you're like, it sounded like an airplane was taking off because it was really, the fan was going crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, why don't you get a new computer? And then what did I say?
You said, no, it's fine.
Okay. Exhibit 2, Your Honor. These are my work headphones. Let me demonstrate how I actually look on Zoom calls. Has anyone ever seen me on a podcast, like a video interview, and wondered, why does this guy only have one earpod? Well, let me show you what the other one is.
There's no headphone, it's wires.
Okay, so Cass, can you tell everyone what happened with these headphones one day?
I thought I would surprise you and with a new pair of headphones. So went to Best Buy, bought you a beautiful new pair of headphones, came back. I was so excited to surprise you, hand you the headphone package, and then you go, thanks.
What? That's how you're going to end the story? Babe. First of all, that's not how I said thanks. Can we at least make me not look like an asshole? Can we be a little bit more accurate, please?
You said, oh, thanks, babe.
Thanks, babe. I really appreciate the thought that went into this.
And then what was the smile you gave me, though?
It was a smile it was like this smile. It was like, all right, how do I reject this gift, but do it in a very, in a way like a good partner would do. So now I'm thinking in my head, okay, gotta do the sandwich technique. So I was like this. I was like, wow, babe, thank you. I can see a lot of thought went into this. I think you should probably take this back. I don't really think I need it, but I really appreciate the thought that went into it. So what was your reaction?
I was a bit surprised because I thought you would love a new pair of headphones.
Yeah. Okay, because one of my love languages is acts of service, so that was really nice. I did actually really appreciate the thought, but I'm like, these headphones are good enough. They still work. And then a few days later, the other thing started falling off in the cord. It's horrible. So
see the cord there?
But here's the money mindset. Here's the money mindset. Money mindset number 2. I will spend extravagantly on the things I love, but cut costs mercilessly on the things I don't. And I'm unapologetic about it. Except in this case, I did say, thank you so much. Oh, it's not an apology, but in this case, my laptop still works. It's 8 years old. It still works. I bought the best when I bought it, and I'm happy, and I'll keep using it until I don't need it. Those headphones they're embarrassing, but they still work, and it's just not that important to me. On the other hand, I will spend extravagantly on something that I really love. Anything relating to convenience, spare no expense. Fitness, spare no expense. Travel, spare no expense. But other things, there are several other things in my life and in our life, Cass, like we rarely eat out. Mm-hmm. It's just not important to us. Mm-hmm. So I'm arguing here that money mindset is as opposed to what most people do, which is they absorb the frugality lessons of America, the puritanical frugality lessons. Then they walk around with one set of lenses on the world. One set. I should cut 3% on that. 3% off lattes, 3% off my refrigerator, 3% off travel, 3%, and they suck at it. You don't even have the skills to do it. And worst of all, you feel guilty. So you don't do it at all. You just walk around in a perpetually guilty state. Congratulations, puritanical Americans. You won the only game that you play, which is be ineffective and feel guilty about it and then just keep doing it. Sucks! This game sucks. Stop doing it. My recommendation, money mindset number 2, is spend extravagantly on the things you love. Extravagantly! Go look at my Money Dials blog post and go look at my FinCon video to see how this works. Extravagantly, but cut costs mercilessly on the things you don't. That means if you take a look and you start from the things you love and you say, wow, what would it feel like if I doubled, tripled, or quadrupled my spending on clothes, food, whatever? And you're like, that would feel awesome. Great, let's start there. Now, what do we cut? Oh, wow, I buy a bunch of stuff mindlessly and I don't even really love it. I'm going to stop. So a barbell strategy, heavy on the extravagance, but also heavy on the extreme cutting back for the things you don't care about. Okay, that's money mindset number 2. By the way, I just want to add a phrase. Think about something that a friend might ask you and how you would respond if they said this. If they said, oh my God, you spent that much on that? How would you respond to that? Most of us, our reflexive answer would be, oh, well, it's not that bad. I've been saving up for a long time, or hey, it's not that bad. My parents helped me out, or I used a coupon. What if you actually looked him in the eye and you said, yeah, it's something that I really value. That is what I mean by being unapologetic about spending extravagantly on the things you love, but cutting costs mercilessly on the things you don't. When Cass came in and she was so generous and without even asking and buying that headphones, I appreciated it, but I was also unapologetic when I just said, you know what, I really don't need it. It's not that important to me. So that's money mindset number 2. Money mindset number 3 is, I know my rich life today is different than my rich life tomorrow. Now this one is really interesting and provocative. You see, when most of us are younger, we say things like, if I had $1 million, I would never do that. What are some of the things that you've said that or heard people say about that? If I had $1 million, I would never dress that way. I would never stay at a hotel. I would give 90% of my earnings away and I would just live on the rest. What are some of the phrases that we have heard or you have even said about, if I had $1 million, I would never do this or that? Well, for a lot of us, that concept of what we think our rich life will be in the future is wearing that same set of lenses. And isn't it interesting that so many of us are still living and using our money today based on the lenses that our 12-year-old selves used to use? Think about that. Your 12-year-old self said, I would never buy, do omakase. You got a bug?
Oh, God.
Oh, good. Thanks for spraying.
Oh, God.
All right. Whew. Our 12-year-old self said, you know, I would never stay at a hotel that costs that much. That's outrageous. Our 12-year-old self didn't earn a cent. Our 12-year-old self didn't understand the context of money, earnings, had never gotten a bonus at work, none of that. So here you are, 28, 38, 48. You may have done really well financially. Maybe you joined Earnable. Maybe you used one of Six-Figure Consulting, one of my programs, my book, whatever. And suddenly you've made a lot. But that 12-year-old voice in the back of your head is saying, it would be outrageous to stay at that kind of hotel. And so for the rest of your life, you are never trying any of that. Never. The principle number 3, my rich life today is different than my rich life tomorrow. And this is important. When I think about where I am, when I was in my 20s, it was going out with friends, it was building up my business, all that stuff. In my early 30s, it was okay, like I've done some of that. I want to start traveling a little more. I want to start learning about that. I got in a relationship. Then it was like, okay, we're planning a wedding, all that. In the future, it could be kids. Certainly, it's now traveling with our parents, which we've done quite a bit, and family, all those kinds of things. We have to accept that our rich life will change. And what that allows us to do is to say, you know what, I'm going to maximize where I am in life today. I think life comes in waves. So maybe in your 20s, you're kind of building it up. In your 30s, maybe you're building a family. In your 40s, and on and on and on. Let me live knowing that I want to maximize my rich life today, but then tomorrow it's going to be different. This is in direct opposition to what most of us do, which is we let our 12-year-old selves who had no idea about money dictate how we're going to spend for the rest of our lives. So that is principle number 3. My rich life today is different than my rich life tomorrow. Now, I would like to ask people in the comments, what text did you get back from your family when you texted them a few minutes ago and said, hey, growing up, if you had to describe the way you thought about money in 3 or 4 words, what would you say? Cass, do we have any thoughts on that? And then also we can start taking questions too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me look at the questions while people type.
I think money mindsets are one of the most interesting things that I Will Teach You to Be Rich has gone into. For those of you who want to see a structured way of how to figure out what your money mindsets are and then how to change them, go to my products page, iwt.com/products. Get the Wealth Triggers program. It's one of our introductory programs. It's very affordable. It will blow your mind in the way you realize all these invisible scripts you've been carrying around about your money that you've had since you were 5. And also how other people think about their money mindsets. It's truly mind-blowing. Cass?
Okay, so the first is money changes people to worse. to worst person.
Can I give a comment on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Money, listen to how most people say this. Money changes people. My take, money does change people. It should. Money has allowed me to dream bigger than I ever thought. My dream back in the day was to be able to order appetizers. That was it. Because we never got to do that growing up. Money allowed me to dream bigger. It allowed me to plan an amazing wedding with Cass, where we were able to focus on the things we love. It allowed us to go on a long honeymoon and bring our parents with us. Mm-hmm. They had never traveled like that. Those are memories we will have forever, right? Those eating gelato in Rome, those photos, those experiences at the Vatican, unbelievable. So money does change people. It should. You can choose if it changes you for the positive, if it pushes you, if it allows you to dream bigger, to provide for your family, to give to charity. Or you can sit here and say, money changes people, and I don't want to be one of those evil people without ever knowing what it's like to earn money. You choose.
All right. Another one, their family mindset was spend on education and safety.
Oh, yeah. That sounds like a lot of Indian people. Indian people have zero limit on education. Zero. Ever. They will spend anything. And this is very telling. Indian people will spend on tutors. In fact, I'll give you an example. I went, there's a slum in Mumbai called Dharavi. And I was able to visit there. And this is a massive, it's like the second largest slum in Asia. It has over 1 million people. And I went there and I thought this will be the poorest of the poor. And it will just be people trying to like get enough food to eat. And indeed it was, the experience was life-changing to see. There are something like 50 toilets for over 1 million people. And the only time they come to clean up the trash is when there's about to be an election. Sounds familiar in a way. One thing that blew my mind in this massive slum was that there were tons of industry.
Oh gosh.
I'm gonna just keep that.
Henry is back. Oh, Henry.
There were tons of, there were hairdressers and travel agents. I asked one of the people there, I said, what's the education system like here? And they said, we do have the equivalent of public schools, but we don't send our kids there. We save all the money we make and send our kids to the equivalent of private schools. So think about that. In the poorest of the poor area, conditions you cannot even imagine, there in India, they were saving every last bit they had and sending their kids for a better future. That was mind-blowing. And that value, I think, is incredibly powerful.
All right, we just got one. So her mother's mindset, never be in a position where you can't walk away financially.
Yeah.
Father's mindset, life is short, live for today, buy what you want, do what you want, be happy.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. By the way, a lot of different gender splits on money. We hear some of the different ones coming out between men and women. That's very interesting. Okay, what else? Actually, Cass, why don't we get you here? Can you tell us about your money mindsets? What's a good way to break it down? Before we met and after?
Yeah.
Okay, are you on camera?
No.
Let's get you on camera.
Okay. I'm coming, guys.
I'm going to come
Oh, yeah, come over here.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, sit down here. Oh, wait, how do we do this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, why didn't we think of this?
Yeah.
Okay, so my money mindset pre-Remy and growing up was be lucky you have a job, be safe, save your money. My parents also worked very hard for us to do various activities growing up and stuff. We didn't really talk about money too much, but I always believe I was in a corporate job before starting my own business. So I always thought that was it. Like, I'm always capped, this is it, and kind of that was the end of the road.
Yeah.
And then after you, I would say the sky is the limit when it comes to income.
Wait. So that was all before?
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Then I started my business, and I think that was the biggest game changer.
So we met, you left your job, you started business.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I thought, wow, the sky is a limit with income. I can earn whatever I want to. I was more strategic with money, so putting it in various accounts and all that stuff. And coming from a more abundance mindset versus there's a limit, I can only do this amount, that's the end of the road. So definitely transitioned into more abundance.
Okay, now I have some questions for you.
Okay.
So you mentioned growing up, it was like save, and this is the limit. What were the changes that happened to you in order to change your mindset? Because you really have swung way on the different side of the spectrum now.
Yeah. I would say a big catalyst for me was starting my own business.
Okay, tell us about that.
For sure. Just because I think a lot of people on here watching this probably work a corporate job or did before they start their own business. And you guys know what it's like, right? You go in 9 o'clock, you leave at 5, maybe sometimes later. You aren't really happy for some of us. And that was it, right? And so I would say starting betting on myself and believing in myself that I could start my own business and I could do it and I could be successful was really the jump off point.
And then was there a moment where you realized, wow, my money mindset really has changed? Like maybe a single purchase or something where you were like, dang, things are really different.
Yeah, when I started buying, actually with my wardrobe, when I started buying more investment pieces and spending like serious money on things like that, and then trips for us and gifts, I knew then it was changing.
Okay, can you flip the camera? So I remember two distinct moments where I could see your money mindset had changed. Well, one of them was aspirational. You said, I want to be able to walk into a store and get whatever I want.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I distinctly remember that because I have also felt that way. For me, it started off at the grocery store. Like, honestly, I just wanted to be able to walk in there and if I wanted to buy the pre-chopped fruit, I could buy it. Because when we were kids, we could never buy that. It was too expensive. We would buy the entire watermelon, then my mom would cut it up. But now I'm like, just look at those strawberries. They look so good. I don't have to chop off the thing sometimes. And so that was my dream. And then to now be able to say, go into a store and not have to focus on cost, I totally get that. The second time, which was I very vividly remember because it just happened recently, we stayed at a really nice hotel in Japan, and you had told me, I want to pick up the tab for this hotel because your business had done so well. Okay, so I want to ask you, what did that feel like to pick up the tab, which was a pretty hefty check? We were there for multiple days. We went to a sushi restaurant there. What did that feel like for you?
Oh, it was amazing. I loved it.
Why?
Because I feel like that was only the beginning of what I could do and what I could do for us too. So it made me really excited to know that there's like a long journey ahead and and to take care of you in that way was awesome.
That was cool. I have to say, like my experience was that I loved seeing you being financially generous. I really loved that. And I loved that there's nothing better than seeing a partner clicking on all fronts. And so for you to be able to afford that really meant that you had been showing up every day to work, doing the right thing, making the right decisions. Your business was thriving. You were thriving and happy. And all that culminated in being able to write this check. Right. To me, that's one of the beauties of being generous with your money. The money itself, whatever. We could have just as easily stayed at a different hotel, which we did actually for part of our stay in Tokyo. But it was special that you could do that. And it wasn't about the money. It was about all the work that you'd put into getting to that.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that was a fun experience for both of us.
That was amazing. Okay, do we have any other questions about money mindsets.
Okay, so someone asks, this is a question for you. What have you learned? What attitudes have you learned from me?
I've learned to be more explicit with my money emotions. So it's one thing to, like, I'm a systems guy. I'm like, look at the systems, everything flows, it's all automated. And that's cool. That's why a lot of you are watching right now. But coming into this relationship and this marriage, I learned that my approach is one approach. And while I think it's really good for what it doesn't account for, or I had to learn to communicate in a way that reached you. So I had to ask, we had to ask each other questions like, how did we grow up? And what does money mean to you? And you asked me the same question. And we came to some pretty surprising realizations.
Yeah.
If you guys watching haven't heard my episode on the Tim Ferriss podcast, it was his number 2 most popular podcast last year. You should listen to it. I talk about this in detail and some of the very difficult conversations that we had to have. And it's been very eye-opening in doing these conversations with you. Don't move.
What?
Don't move.
Oh my God. Don't even tell me what it is.
Flip the camera. Let's get this on camera. Oh man, this is crazy. Okay, I think it's gone.
Oh my God.
All right, what other questions?
Oh, wow. Okay.
There's bugs everywhere tonight.
Oh my God. They're really mad at us. Okay.
Because we did vacuuming today. They're like, you disturbed our peace. All right, what else we got?
How do you help a partner who is stuck in that fixed money mindset?
That's it. Okay, so I would say 2 things. First of all, do wealth triggers together with them. It will change your life. To start off and actually have the space to talk about this. That's the biggest challenge that people have when they have 2 differing opinions, is anytime you bring it up, you're usually fighting about it. That's why we talk about having our regular check-ins or even like date night. Date night isn't just about date night. Date night is about creating space for the 2 of you to be able to connect and talk. And it's a fixed time and place where we're going to have that time. So if you do wealth triggers, first of all, the important part is just creating space for you to talk about money mindsets in a positive way, not negative. The second thing is just to learn how to have these conversations. So in short, what I would say is I would do that. I would have the conversation where you ask them, tell me about how you were raised. Do the text message exercise. Ask them what they think, how do they approach money? And then have them ask you. Start there. Don't start by saying, I hate when you buy this, or I don't like when you do that. It's going to be a long process. It's still ongoing. Cass and I, we talk about this all the time. We will forever. But that is the way to start off.
Is financial misalignment a deal breaker in a relationship?
I think it can be. I think if you have a super saver and a super spender, that can be very tough because it's every single day that you are approaching the world in a different way. Now, I do think if you can communicate, if you can connect on a few key core values, if you can set up some systems where everyone has their guilt-free spending, no questions, you're hitting your savings goals, you can make it work. But I don't know, I think it's difficult if something important like kids or money or whatever, you have misaligned core values and you don't really have the communication skills to resolve it. That's tough.
Yeah, I think the most important part is the communication portion.
Yeah,
okay.
I think I agree that's probably the most important, but I think sometimes, like what was that book we read, the Gottman book, and it was like, you actually don't have to agree on everything.
Right, yeah.
And I think, frankly, you and I will probably never agree on some elements of money. Like, we are fundamentally different. I'm more growth-seeking than you, I think.
Yeah.
And, like, that's okay. But there are some core things like, what's our savings rate, and we value relationships and things like that I think we've come to agree on.
But also, I think a challenge is a lot of people don't know what those things are for themselves, right?
Yes. Like, how can you have a conversation with someone else when you don't even know your own?
Yeah.
And so then what happens? You end up fighting about, why did you buy that shirt? Or why did you buy that Nintendo Switch? When it's not about that. And this is where a good therapist or outsider can really help you find the core issues.
Definitely. Okay, I'm just looking through the questions. Has your money mindset changed at all while being in social isolation?
No. My money mindset for things like this is I plan and build emergency savings and contingency plans so that when it comes to situations like this, I can spend and spend without having to worry about the cost, especially in the short term. So if we need to get out fast, let's go. I don't care what it costs. If we need to send food or support to somebody we love, send it. Don't worry, just send it. And that is the result of planning and systems and all the stuff in the I Will Teach book. But that allows us to have an arsenal that we can deploy when we need to. And so no, my money mindsets have not changed. If anything, I've become more thankful for the planning that we did before. And, that allows us to do what we're doing. Last question.
All right. How long do you speak with each other on finances?
We have a formal money meeting for 30 minutes a month where we look through the numbers and what are the expenditures and how are we trending and all that stuff. That's like a more technical meeting, Cass, would you say?
Yeah.
And then we've spent a lot.
Emotional meeting.
Emotional time is like what, unlimited? I'm like, can we cap this? I'm like,
I'm
emotioned out.
Love emotions.
15 minutes. How about 15 minutes a year on that? What do you say, babe?
Nope.
Well, we did spend a lot of time early on, a lot, right? Like some of it fairly contentious because we were having those first conversations.
Yeah.
And
we still talk about money to this day. Yeah.
It is less contentious now, for sure.
Yeah.
Right? Because now we have some shared agreements. We have some common vocabulary, which has been awesome. And also, I think we've encountered a lot of novel situations in the first year of marriage, like paying bills.
Like day-to-day stuff that you have to do.
Yeah, like groceries or who's picking... Vacations.
Yeah.
Gifts.
Yeah.
So, as we kind of work through each of those, then it becomes a little less novel each time. Okay, so tonight we talked about money mindsets. I gave you 3 money mindsets to use. That is a tiny excerpt of the Wealth Triggers program. If this interests you at all and you want to see how to go deeper, go to iwt.com/products, join the Wealth Triggers program. Do it with your partner. It will be mind-blowing to do it alone. It will be way more mind-blowing to do it if you have a partner. I have a lot coming up this week. I'm going to be talking about careers. What can you do with careers, especially in a time like this? I continue to love getting DMs and messages from you guys. I love it. I love the ideas of what I should talk about. I have a couple of suggestion things that we did a family Zoom call today, and I got a suggestion to talk about real estate. Why do I have my views on real estate that I do? So that may be coming up as well. Each time we're trying to make this better. We have a tripod that we got for our YouTube video. We're getting microphones. All right, that's still a work in progress, but there's a lot of improvements each day that we're trying to make, so I appreciate it. And let's all give a big round of applause to Cass at Next Level Wardrobe, who's doing a great job fielding questions, apparently blocking some lewd people. We can discuss that next time.
We'll talk about that next time.
Anyway, thank you guys. I will see you tomorrow night.